Hello everyone, it's Lindsay from the Vintage Button, and I'm here with a very simple, small, and it is small, junk journal flip through. So, have I got? I do. So this is 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters wide. It's 15 centimeters tall. And it's 5.75 inches tall. So it's made out of a stock cube box, and it's got one signature, and it's just the scraps. I did actually do some making videos of this, so it's kind of the flip through the finished product. So it's just the scraps that I have a big scrap box at the side of me that I just empty when I finished a project. Empty the bits in unless it's really obvious, and then I'll put it back where it should go. But so there we go. So I want to show you, the front is one of my homemade stamps, and it was, I think, when I was just trying it out when I first made it. It says the Vintage Button, and then it has this really sweet little person from a vintage wedding photograph, and the rest of the people is just literally one photograph, and the rest of the people are sort of spread out along the journal. So it's amazing what you can do with scraps. I always find it's a bit like, and I've said this before, when you're making a meal and you go and have a look at what's in the fridge and you make some sort of scrap meal, and this is what comes out of it, and it's always the best kind of meal, that sort of meal. So there's the front cover. We're going to go inside. So I made the cover thicker by adding some cereal packet, and then I just masterboarded sort of down the sides, and then I've kind of covered the spine with a bit of felt and some scrap fabric, where I've used the scrap fabric and the lace throughout the journal as well to add a bit of continuity. This is just some music paper with napkin that was glued over the top, all from my scrap. I didn't glue any napkins to anything. This is literally out from my scrap bin. So it's on that side and that side, because it was just like a square piece of paper, and I cut it in half and used it for the sort of end papers. I think it's really pretty. So starting off with a belly band with the second of those bridesmaids made into a paper fairy, resplendent in her sort of periwinkle wings. And there's some tags. Not everything's finished, so there's just some tags that need probably some scraps going on them. But that's there. But there's quite a lot packed into this little journal. Oh, no, I did stick a napkin down, but there were scraps of napkin, and this has just been PVA glued onto two of the pages after I've bound it in. So this napkin is actually a vintage napkin from the 90s I got from Bygone Times up north on one of their stalls. So we've got some little bits. I think these are from the Graphics Fairy. This page is from a Victorian children's history book that I rescued from a skip, and it didn't have the back cover. The spine was detached. Yeah, it was not in good shape. This is just a scrap from a book that I remember. It's amazing how you remember where you got stuff from. This book, and I've used scraps of it throughout the journals. This is just one page from it. It was a really thick coffee table book from one of those free libraries that look like, like they're in old red telephone boxes in the UK. And I only take the books that nobody else will want. I remember this one, I doubted I would be able to rescue it, but I managed to. It was wet through, and it was on the edge of becoming mouldy. So I had to dry it out for quite a long time, and a lot of the pages were stuck together. But it had amazing images in it that I've made so many things with. It's been one of my most useful books for junk journaling. So anyway, we've got a scrap that I've just put some of the gold around. It's amazing what a bit of gold pen, how it elevates, and it's just a pocket. It doesn't have anything in it. Guess we don't need to put everything in a pocket, do we? I have always got stamped images on book pages in my scrap thing, because I do that multiple times and then they end up in my scrap pile. So I've just kind of coloured in this bee. I think it's a Prima by Designs. It's for furniture, but I use it in my jug journaling. It's a nice big fat bumblebee. Scrap of a floral book. This scrap behind is from a magazine. Bit of lace. The tag is from a vintage book. There's vintage atlas there. This is just a little labels put onto vintage book page. Again, I have lots of those skidding around everywhere because the what I do sort of in between a project, I think, oh, I'll just do a lot of stamping, or I'll do a lot of sticking and cutting out just to sort of keep my stash built up. If you've recently seen, I've done a room tour, a craft room tour, and my storage, and I didn't really explain it in the tour, but I kind of had this notion building for a few years that I was making like my own craft store in the craft room initially, and then it's become a department store that's throughout the top floor of my house, and actually there's a bit in the lounge as well. It's all over everywhere. So here we've got a tag made out of a bit of the vintage page, just a scrap from an envelope, little tea card, and this is another Graphics Fairy image that was in that box. I've repaired some of the pages just using stamped images on book page that are in the box, and just stuck them over where there were the tears. I don't use washi tape. I generally will just use another piece of paper and glue it down. This is another one of my tags with another little bridesmaid. She's got like a aqua colour wings. So pretty. These flowers are beautiful, and they're again from a napkin, and this is another thing I will do in between kind of tasks. I'll process some of my napkins and take the images out. I have got a video coming up that I plan to do that's just about this sort of thing, kind of building your stash with the things that you have. So that's that, and this is the centre page, and look at this. So this is the other bit of that scrap from the book I rescued from the red telephone box. Just make a page that would do the centre, and then I've stuck some of the scrap napkin over the top that had flowers, and then I've kind of gone over the flowers with my Posca markers just to kind of like bring out the colours and highlight. This is from a Victorian letter that was in the scrap box, so it was scraps of a Victorian letter, and it was talking about, like marriage agreements, kind of very, very old-fashioned, where people would be given a diary. It was kind of about that. I've got lots of letters about this marriage agreement. These little butterflies are actually from a magazine, so I think that might be a printed butterfly, but a lot of the other butterflies are kind of like from a magazine. It was like a butterfly watching guide. I've also used some white gel marker to like put some magic and some gold just to kind of like have magic sparking in the air. So yeah, there's a couple. Unfortunately, she's blinking. That's probably why it was just, I don't even know where I got this photograph from. It was probably out of a book. Yeah, so I went over with the Posca marker over her little bouquet, and I just put a little bit of green on his buttonhole so that he's got a white rose in, so I thought, well, I'll just put a little bit of green there. But don't they look beautiful and dapper? So that's that page. I've made a pocket, sticky two tea cards together, put a little tag in. This is a Graphics Fairy printable. It's not an original, but I print onto recycled paper, and just it's not bright white, so it does kind of like dull things down. This is a butterfly that's from a napkin that's been mounted onto some card. That'll be part of that video I do. And then I've just used some of this scrap fabric on the top. Plain bit. I've got all the windows open so you can hear a dog barking, which is really rare. It's from the front of the house, so it's somebody taking the dog for a walk. A slim tag, just from a floral book. It's not even backed or anything, it's just sort of plopped in. This is something I've stamped out of a book, and it's all in Greek, so I just thought that was interesting. So we've popped that in. Another Graphics Fairy image there. This is a bit from the coronation invitation from the king when he got coronated. I've still got loads of that. I was working in an old people's home at the time, and we did like lots of special events, and I recreated. You could download, you probably still could from the Royal Family website, the invitation, and I manipulated it to make it like it was for the residents, and there was just hundreds of them left around. They all liked looking at it and they got it, but not everybody wanted to keep it, so I went round and rescued them and then tea dyed them, and I've highlighted bits of gold, and they've just gone into my little stash of stuffs. Another one of my butterflies from the napkin. This is real Victorian letter, so not everybody had very neat handwriting back then, and that's a graphics fairy thing. And I think, you know, if you can't get hold of this stuff, because it is increasingly difficult to get hold of, you know, things like the graphics fairy are quite adequate if you want that sort of real vintage look. So this, I think, is this my last little girl? Let me just double check. Yeah, this is my last fairy out of that little, and I've given her a name of Miss Hopkin. Was it Nopton or Hoplan? Miss Hoplan, who was actually the lady that we're talking about with her marriage agreement, you know, before she got married. But we've decided this is her name. She's one of the flower girls. So yeah, her little butterfly wings are just snippets from a magazine. This is all snippets from a magazine with a bit of gold around. A bit of gold goes a long way. I think I've made a little envelope with some Russian page. I've got a few Russian books that I get from my local Tesco on their charity shelves. So go figure. This is a little snippet from a craft magazine that I have then kind of added. I think that's a snippet roll, very last odds and ends of a snippet roll, sort of built it up onto a tag. I think that's a Prim by Designs rose, another scrap of that invitation. What have we got here? We've got a little envelope, or is it a bag? It's a little bag, a kind of sweetie bag, but a long version with a bit of lace and a bit of magazine snippet. This is a bit from a flower guide book. Another one of those little graphics fairy girls. This is from a napkin. Again, I will be doing a video on how I process napkins and get the best out of it. This is the other half of that little scrap of letter, and it's from 92, so that's 1892, not 1992. It would be vintage if it was 1992, but it's 1892. Just with another one of my bees. That's a Crafty Individuals bee. I love a bee. I've got quite a few different types of bee stamps. And that's the other side, and you can see there's a bit of that vintage letter, that Victorian letter, some of the Russian, some more of the invitation, and then kind of old atlas paper and magazine. So it's like all kind of blended together. I just went for colours that I thought would look nice, really. So that's that, and it's going to go in my stash because I quite like the smallness of it. I have done another one that I will do another flip through that will be given away in some a swap that I'm doing on the Facebook group, UK Junk Journaling Chat Room Facebook group. I kind of spend a fair bit of time on there. That's part of Sandra at Be Happy Stationery runs that. And that reminds me, because we still have the May giveaway on the go, so I'm going to bring this one out. I will have the details in the description box. This is very long, probably better to show it that way, and you can see the size difference. This is her Love is in the Air kit, and it is just really beautiful, and I'm giving it away because I thought I should give some of my design team projects away, and I do a blend of junk and a printable. I think it brings out the best of both, really. It's a joy to make. So there's that one, and all you have to do to win this is be subscribed, like and comment on this video, any other video really. I'll just round it all up before the next, when will I do it? The 6th of June. The 6th of June is when I will draw, when I'll do a draw. And then we're going to be building up to, I'm going to call the 1st of July the official Vintage Button birthday. And there will be things in throughout July because I'm going to miss Junk Journal July. So I'm like, I've got to do something to celebrate the Vintage Button turning 1 and just do something nice. So I'm going to leave them there for you. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm going to go and get my head around, I've been invited to do like a craft stall / workshops at a local museum. Need to work out what I need to do for that. And it's all on the same week as I'm doing it for work as well. So I've kind of got to get my head round. I've got enough supplies. It'll be fine. Got to get my head around what I'm going to do. All right then. It's been lovely talking to you. I hope to talk to you soon. I think I'll be doing some slow stitching tomorrow. All right then. Bye bye.